This book is called The Snail and the Whale, written by Julia Donaldson and illustrated by Axel Schaeffler. This is the tale of a tiny snail and a great big gray-blue humpback whale. This is a rock as black as soot, with a snail with an itchy foot. The sea snail slithered all over the rock and gazed at the sea and the ships in the dock. And as she gazed, she sniffed and sighed. The sea is deep and the world is wide. How I long to sail, said the tiny snail. These are other snails in the flock, who all stuck tight to the smooth black rock, and said to the snail with the itchy foot, "Be quiet, don't wiggle, stay still, stay put." But the tiny sea snail sniffed and sighed, then cried, "I got it, I'll hitch a ride." This is the tiny trail of the tiny snail, a slippery trail that looped and curled and said, "Ride wanted around the world." This is the whale who came one night when the tide was high and the stars were bright. A humpback whale, immensely long, who sang the snail a wonderful song of shimmering ice in coral caves and shooting stars in enormous waves. And this is the tale of the humpback whale. He held it out of the starlit sea and said to the snail, "Come sail with me." There's the whale, and there's his tail. He picks up the snail. This is the sea, so wild and free, that carried the whale and the snail on his tail to towering icebergs and far-off lands. With fiery mountains and golden sands. These are the waves that arced and crashed, that formed and frolicked and sprayed and splashed the tiny snail on the tail of the whale. These are the caves beneath the waves where colorful fish with feathery fins and sharks with hideous toothy grins swam past the whale and the snail on his tail. This is the sky, so vast and high, sometimes sunny and blue and warm, sometimes filled with a thunderstorm, with zigzag lightning flashing and frightening the tiny snail on the tail of the whale. Looks kind of scary. And she gazed at the sky, the sea, and the land, and the waves, and the caves, and the golden sand. She gazed and gazed, amazed by it all, and she said to the whale, "I feel so small." You see her up there? She does look pretty small. But then came the day where the whale lost his way. There are speedboats running a race, zigging and zooming all over the place, upsetting the whale with their ear-splitting roar, making him swim too close to the shore. This is the tide slipping away. And this is the whale lying beached in the bay. Quick, off the sand, back to the sea, cried the snail. I can't move on land, I'm too big, moaned the whale. The snail felt helpless and terribly small. Then, I've got it, she cried, and started to crawl. I must not fail, said the tiny snail. She looks pretty determined. This is the bell on the school in the bay, ringing the children in from their play. This is the teacher holding her chalk, telling this class, sit straight, don't talk. This is the board, as black as soot. And this is the snail with the itchy foot. A snail, the teacher turns pale. Look, says the children, it's leaving a trail. This is the trail of the tiny snail, a slivery trail saying, save the whale. He wrote that on the chalkboard in the classroom. He's little, but he can do big things. These are the children running from school, fetching the firemen and digging a pool, squirting and spraying to keep the whale cool. They're gonna save him. This is the tide coming into the bay. And these are the villagers shouting hooray as the whale and the snail travel safely away. Are they happy? Back to the dock and the flock on the rock, who said, how time's flown, and haven't you grown? Look at them. They're excited. Welcome home. And the whale and the snail told their wonderful tale of shimmering ice and coral caves and shooting stars and enormous waves. And how of the snail, so small and frail, with her looping, curling, silvery trail, saved the life of the humpback whale. Then the humpback whale held out his tail, and on crawled snail after snail after snail. And they sang to the sea as they all set sail on the tail of the gray-blue humpback whale.